Yo, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy 360 Stacks in this thing, baby, representing Team Kings of Games. And today I'm going to be updating my Plunder patrols. Yo, I will say, if you don't have a core for this deck, this is one of those decks you want to have your core for, even if you're not interested or you don't think it's good or you just want to play like Virtual Worlds right now or something like that. This is just one of those decks that you want to have on standby because this deck has always been heat, right? Like this deck's always been heat ever since this came out, even before it got its new support when we just had Redbeard, Whitebeard, Shipyard, and Booty, and that's all we had to work with. This deck was heat then. It was heat when the new support came out and Raven's coming out. This deck's just, it's fire. Like this deck is about to be so much better than it already is. What I like about this deck is it has so much utility, and it's what it does. It's already so good at it, but there are certain cards like that other decks cannot interact with properly, and this deck has a way to interact with those in a very beneficial way. There are decks right now that are putting up Winda. This deck outs Winda with ease, and literally it doesn't even have to special summon multiple times to do it. This deck can also banish spells and traps or monsters, so that deals with your Eldritch matchup. Your Zodiac matchup, you can out Mega Clubs, you can deal with Dryden extremely well. When it comes to combo decks, when you're able to put up consistent disruptions like over and over again and able to draw into more hand traps off of Blackbeard, and you're able to main deck a lot of hand traps, impactful blowout hand traps, this deck just has so much. It just has so much going for itself. It's such a great deck. It has great recovery. I can tell so many good, like just amazing, super clutch stories of me playing with this deck, like getting evenly matched with a full field. Even when I had like bonkers interruptions, got evenly flipped a Booty, and before I know it, that Booty brought back one card, and on my next turn, I have Lease, Braun, Morik, and Blackbeard. Off of the Booty, just rotating cards, everything snowballs with this deck, cascades. This deck OCKs without access code or Boral Sword. I think a hard summon Morik literally destroys so many decks right now. There's so many decks that cannot get over a hard summon Morik, especially when it's equipped with Emblem, and the fact that this can banish the Golden Lords, this can banish the Shit-All Fusion so that they don't get to recur anything. It can banish even the Schism itself. This deck is just so good in your Drytron matchup, banishing your Drytron's names and banishing the Ritual spell against Virtual World. Braun and Morik are your friends. They activate and affect the target. You chain, banish the target. Like this deck is so good against everything right now. I just think that this deck, when it gets Raven, it's going to be like tier 1.5. That's just me. And I also want to show you guys some duels with me playing this deck against meta. But I'm going to get into my list. I can't talk the deck enough. I can't talk the deck up enough. You guys you would have to either see it to believe it or play it yourself. Most people would rather see it to believe it, but I think it's better if you just play it yourself, and you'll see what I'm talking about, how good this deck is, especially in the meta right now, where like banishing cards is actually super duper impactful against a lot of decks. It's so good. So let's go ahead and start with our starters. So we're starting off with 3 Shipyard and 1 Optimus Prime. And I guess I could say Desires, right? So these are like starter cards, and the other cards that are basically starters are gonna be your crewmates, basically, like the Beards, you know, your Mateys, Whitebeard and Redbeard, and then Golden Hair and Bluebeard. These are starters in the sense that they can rotate into your ships, because what you want to do with this deck, your game plan essentially is to get out your Blackbeard. Well, at least my game plan is to properly, and I can't stress it enough, properly summon, as in link summon, not summon off Emblem, you know, not summon off of any other method. Properly summon your Blackbeard and try to properly summon another ship and rotate your Blackbeard off of Lease and use Lease to loop Blackbeard and use Blackbeard to loop other ships. And as you're equipping and drawing cards, you use Lease to bring the Blackbeard back so that you can continue this loop of drawing and searching and banishing and negating over and over and over until you deplete your opponent's resources or one-shot them with 6,000 attack ships that can't be targeted by card effects and can't be destroyed because of more. And so all of these cards help you and enable you to do that. And it doesn't always take a lot of work to get you there because this deck has such a huge snowballing factor that you can have a very simple hand. I kid you not, this is real life experience. I have started my turn with just Blackbeard, and like a booty face down. Whenever I go for Blackbeard, I normally search booty if I can, because I don't know if they have the attributes I could work with, and so booty's my insurance. And then on my next turn, I have a full field. I can't even special summon anymore until I link or synchro or exceed something off so I can make room. Like, so this deck is really explosive. It's really consistent, and it gets the job done very fast. Like, this deck closes games out like this. It's so fast. Like, it'll end you so fast. And these are all pretty much starters, because these enable you to do what the deck is supposed to do, which is get your ships out and get Blackbeard. Blackbeard is the captain after all. So, you know, Blackbeard essentially is your main go-to in this deck, and you're just going to use him to be your enabler. And as you're using him to enable your plays, you're going to use a card like Lease to just bring him back from the spell or trap zone to the field, so that on your turn you can tag. So basically what you're going to do when you get your setup is you're going to draw on your turn and on your opponent's turn and on your turn and your opponent's turn, and you're going to keep doing that. And the reason why you're going to keep doing that is because you're going to use booty to put back a not properly summoned ship back into your extra deck. And then you're going to use booty again to bring one back that was properly summoned, so you can loop your cards endlessly and just keep drawing your hand traps and keep disrupting your opponent, so you just don't run out of resources. You just keep grinding them out. And these cards enable that loop, that rotating kind of factor, if that makes sense. And that's how I play my deck. That's how I play my plunders. I try to rotate my cards and get maximum. Like, imagine a lemon. Just squeeze every drop of juice and throw the seeds away. Squeeze every drop of juice that you can until there's nothing left. That's what I do with my cards. I squeeze every bit of interaction, every bit of advantage, every kind of plus I can get. I try to get the most out of every card. That's how you want to play plunders. They are a resource built deck, and their summoning mechanic, there is a gimmick to it where it requires your opponent to have a certain attribute. I have a solution for you guys when we get deeper into my deck list, but these are your go-to, basically these are your go-to shipmates. That's why Beard is in their name. I think that just kind of like sets them apart from like Golden Hair and Bluebeard. You know, like Bluebeard is special too, but I think Whitebeard, the simple fact that like Whitebeard is the helm, and then he's a matey and like he's a shipwright. I believe the helm is pretty much the dude that I forget, man. I don't know exactly what it's called. It's a part of the ship. But Whitebeard is actually your main go-to. The reason being is because on your opponent's turn, you can use these cards to tag out into a plunder from your extra deck based on the attribute your opponent has on their field in their grave. What I like about Whitebeard is, let's say you're playing against, this is just a perfect example of how these cards outwinda. So like, let's say my opponent has Schism and Punishment, and I normal Whitebeard and pass. So if I normal Whitebeard and pass, they're going to Punishment this, and I'm going to float into a Redbeard. When I float into my Redbeard on my opponent's draw phase, I can activate this effect and summon out a Blackbeard, and I can banish that Winda if they summoned a Winda. So essentially, even without Punishment, I just said Punishment because like they can pop this and it can still float, and they might chain Schism. You know, they might do it in my main phase and just like chain Schism just so I can't special again. But essentially, these cards by themselves actually do outwinda, because they float into Mork, and Mork banishes the Winda, which takes resources from Schism to be able to rotate properly and get more names in the grave. It doesn't touch the grave. And on the flip side, these cards have a snowballing factor as well. So it might start off slow. It might be a little bit rough on your first turn, just playing through interruptions and turbulence. But once you resolve one Mork effect and it doesn't get ashed or anything, and you search your shipyard, like when you resolve Mork, it's one of the most impactful, interactions with this deck. Like, it's something that you either do it with Mork or Lease. The reason why Mork is more ideal, because Mork is on command. You can summon him and use his effect ASAP. With Lease, you have to wait for your opponent to do something as far as monster effects, and then you have to negate it, and it also has to be destroyed. This is why Mork is more reliable with tutoring your engine, because it can search Shipyard, which allows you to search your entire deck. So like these are just important notes. These are just nice little pointers for anyone that wants to play this deck. These are just things to know, or I should say things to remember when playing this deck. So like these are important. I want to say that Golden Hair is arguably just as important and sometimes better, because she's a one-card Blackbeard, and Blackbeard is better than both of these put together because he allows you to draw cards, and on top of that, if you summon a Lease, you get to bring that Blackbeard back from the spell trap zone. After you resolve Lease's negate, destroy, search effect, it doesn't need to be equipped anymore. You just summon Blackbeard and then you just rotate into another ship. So these are just things you want to do. There are some cool tricks you can do with Bluebeard. Like, there are times where I discard Bluebeard for cost off Shipyard, search a Whitebeard, and then on resolution, Bluebeard separate chain, discard Whitebeard, draw a card, and then special off Whitebeard. So there's some cool tricks you can do with Bluebeard, including discarding it off Moark to search a Shipyard, and then separate chain Bluebeard, discard Shipyard, draw a card, effective Shipyard engrave, bounce something from spell trap zone back to hand, and get the Shipyard and activate it. And now you have a name to discard for your other Plunder cards, and you can discard a random for Shipyard. So Bluebeard, there are some cool tricks you can pull with him too. Pretty much all the Plunder Patrol monsters are really good. They all do so many different cool things, and it's the little stuff that makes a big difference whenever you're playing decks like this. This is pretty much a skill-based deck. It's a control deck, but it's very aggro, if that makes sense. But getting out of that, finally, for like the last consistency cards, I actually am playing Foolish Burial Goods. I wanted to play 3 of this card. I'll explain why I think 3 is super duper important. But one of the main interactions with this is you're going to be dumping Shipyard or Shipping. But there's another reason why I play it, and I'll show you when I get deeper into the spells. So we're playing 3 Shipping. Fusion is busted. This card is a must negate going second. This is a really, really skillful card. What I like about this too is this forces so much interruption from your opponent because they have to negate this, and then you get its graveyard effect to equip an emblem, and then emblem forces another negate. So you force 2 negates with 1 card, essentially, which is super broken. So this card is really, really good. And then we also have Emblem, which is a problem-solving card, but it's not enough. You want more cards that are like Emblem to play this deck efficiently, because the gimmick of this deck is also its Achilles heel. If your opponent does not have the attributes that you need, you actually cannot play. And that does suck. That's why they made Emblem and they made Booty, but it's still not enough. Surprisingly, even though you could search those cards and it seems like on pen and paper you have enough, it's not. Zodiac and Virtual World and Tri-Brigades are literally your worst matchups, and it sucks. It sucks, like really bad. And now I might as well talk about what goods can do before I drop the spice. So right now what I'm using goods for is, like, let's say I do a Golden Hair, graveyard effect of Golden Hair. I go Ombrage, Golden Hair effect engrave, discard Shipping, and then I summon Golden Hair and I make a Blackbeard. If I have Foolish Burial Goods, I can dump Shipyard. I can activate Shipping's graveyard effect, equip Whitebeard to the Blackbeard I summon off the 1-card Golden Hair play, and then I can use the Shipyard that I Foolish Burial Goods to bounce the Whitebeard back to hand, set, and activate the Shipyard. I've essentially searched Shipyard without drawing it because of goods. And I got Whitebeard from my deck to my hand, also because of goods, because of how Shipping works. So that's just like one utility like play that you can do. Other things is just Foolish Burial Goods into Shipping to banish it, to equip whatever you need for the situation that it calls for. Whether it's something to summon from your spell trap zone off lease, or if it's an emblem, if you just need to get a ship out right now, or if you just want to go for the resource game, you can do that as well. But the other thing that Shipping, that Foolish Burial Goods does is I play 1 Strike of the Monarchs. Whether you're discarding this off Shipyard itself or Foolish Burial Goods, this card is really, really good. It's like another emblem. It's the spice. So what it does is, its graveyard effect is the only reason why I play it. Because you don't really tribute summon in this deck. That's not really possible unless you like just hard summon Driver, right? So basically its graveyard effect, you can banish it and it declares an attribute, and pretty much all monsters become that attribute. I believe it's on the field, not just all, my bad. All face-up monsters currently on the field become that attribute until the end of this turn. So if my opponent is on Zodiacs and they've been having Earths this whole time and they've been kind of annoying me, popping my cards with Trident, and I can't flip Booty because they change right into pop it, that's why I hate that matchup, right? You can just call Dark, and as soon as you can emblem out or just summon a Morg, the game is just over, bro. Like, if they don't Solemn Strike that Morg, it's just like, bro, like, the game is just over. Because, like, they're never getting another chance until they find a way to get, like, droplets or something like that to address the Morg. So it's one of those situations where you don't have the resources to hard summon Morg because you need 2 bodies to overlay, and then you still need a Plunder card in your hand. So that's, like, a lot of commitment. Whereas you can just strike on the Monarchs and then get like a free Moark out off of one of your Plunder plays, like Blackbeard, and you get to draw a card if you do it off Blackbeard. So this card has like a lot of utility. You can call Fire if you need Brawn, call Light if you need Lease, call Water if you literally just want to draw off Blackbeard and start getting your cards out. But this card has a really good amount of utility. It's worth it as a one-off, and it solves like a lot of problems. I mean, like, there are hands where like it's nuts and you can hard summon Mork, and when you're playing against decks like Zodiac, which is like literally, I would say it's like one of your second worst matchup. Virtual World's probably the absolute worst, I want to say, because Chuchi's worse than Trident, right? Because like Chuchi's not even a monster. It's a Trident that's just a trap. It's just so annoying, right? So like when you have those kinds of matchups, you do want to hard summon Morg and equip it with Emblem, because what it is, it essentially cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects twice, and it can be targeted, and it can banish monsters, which just helps you to clear fields, and it lets you play defense so that you can stall out for a turn so that you can get your resources and kind of just start snowballing again. The other thing that properly summoning Morg does is it protects all your other plunder cards on the field, from Lightning Storm and Twin and Chuchi and anything, Vermilion Mech, anything that pops any plunder card. Morg is actually broken. That's why sometimes you need to hard summon that card and just commit. When you have a hand where you're like, oh, I can make Bahamut Shard Toad, you might think that's totally awesome, it's tempting, it looks worth it. You're like, ooh, I get Omni-Negate and I get to get my Wada back. It's like, you might want to just hard summon that Morg, bro. You're never gonna regret it. And then for another utility card, I'm just playing the one called by. Sometimes Ash Blossom can hurt. I know it's at 1. I missed when it was at 3 because I used to play 3 called by, because every ship can be ashed. And what that means is Ash negates the whole effect. So if I like try to negate Nibiru with Lease and my opponent chains Ash on the Lease, I'm just like getting Nibiru'd, you know what I mean? It's just stuff like that. And then we have 3 copies of Booty. I think that Booty is super important. Even if I wasn't playing Desires, I'd still play 3 Booties. You just don't ever want to not have access to this card. And whenever it goes, you need another copy. I've went through all 3 before. It's just super good. It helps you to play through cards like Lightning Storm and Evenly Match. And when your board gets wiped, you can just flip a Booty and start accruing some advantage and resources. In-phase Booty is pretty nuts too, because if you have a properly summoned Blackbeard and you didn't get to use it that turn for whatever reason, Blackbeard can just rotate into a Lease, and then you're just going to start accruing advantage because Lease can summon out Black, and then you can just Booty, bring another monster from the grave, and then use Blackbeard, target itself, and go into the attribute you called off Booty. And before you know it, you have 4 to 5 monsters, and all you did was just use 1 Booty. So Booty is pretty insane. By itself, it snowballs. As long as you have, obviously, targets in grave, which you normally will, you'll have like white beards and red beards and black beards, and golden hair is just going to come off its own effect. So you're just going to be like Booty, bring back Black, Black rotate into a Lease, draw a card, and then draw phase, Booty again, summon Whitebeard, declare an attribute, Blackbeard, even in draw phase if you want to, tag out, draw again, and before you know it, Booty can become like a +4 for you, just Booty by itself. Even if you're not drawing plunder cards, you're still drawing a lot off Blackbeard, which is insane. So this card is actually really, really broken, and it solves one of the major problems this deck has. And then we're going to go into hand traps. So I kept it in purple sleeves because these belong to my Dragon Maids, but these are the hand traps for my plunders. I'm on 3 copies of Gamma and Driver. I think Gamma is insane in this deck because you can summon cards like Dragite, and you can summon Brawn off of Gamma. Obviously, you don't want to summon Dragite unless you have a water engrave, you know. And I do miss maining Nibiru because I used to reveal Nibiru off Dragite to bounce cards because it's a rock. But Gamma is like a great utility card. It lets cards like Desires and Shipyard just resolve, which is really, really good, including when you discard Whitebeard for cost and they chain Skullmeister, or they chain Crow when you discard it for cost, so it won't resolve on the separate chain. You could just Gamma them, which is super duper impactful, and it's a good tempo swing, so Gamma's amazing. When you activate shipping and then negate it, you chain Gamma. This card is amazing. On top of it being a light attribute for Emblem, it actually puts a plunder name on field, which is Brawn, or Dragite if you need to, so it's just really, really good utility. And then I also play 3 Ash. This is also your fire for Brawn for Emblem, and if we ever get an Earth ship, Bell is going to have more utility, but I just like Bell because of how many cards it interacts with. It interacts with Schism and Adir Servant, and you can Ghost Spell Invocation if Meltdown's not up. You can Ghost Spell every Drytron name, Lao Lao, and GG. I can go on. Ghost Spell is just really good. And then I also play Triple Meister. I wanted to play Nibiru, but I decided I need a Dark Attribute hand trap so Emblem can summon out my Morg. So I think it's important for your hand traps to be synergistic with your attributes-based ships that you want to get out with Emblem. Otherwise, you'll be in a situation where you could have, but you can't, or you should have, could have, would have, but you didn't because you didn't have the right attribute. So if this was like Nib and I ever needed to summon a Morg, I'd be pretty salty. But Nibiru is a combo piece because it does put a light on field and a body, so you can normal a Whitebeard, go into Blackbeard, and then also resolve Whitebeard to summon from deck and have a Blackbeard and still have a light attribute for Emblem, which is super cool. And it gives Nibiru, also gives your opponent a light attribute monster, so you can immediately go into Lease. So Nibiru is also very synergistic in this deck. You could arguably play Nibiru over Bell, but I think Bell just has more utility because there's some decks that you can't Nibiru, but you can always Ghost Bell them. And that's the main deck. For the extra, I actually play 3 Blackbeards now. I've been grinding a lot on Dueling Book with this deck, and this card has been coming up way more than it ever has because it's just... this is the most important card, honestly. It really is. Especially when you're playing so many hand traps and defensive cards. These are cards you want to draw, and he lets you see those. And then also, because of how important Mork has become this format, I actually started playing 3. This card puts in the most work out of every ship for me lately. It's just been Mork. Hard summon Mork. Keep banishing those resources. Indestructible, untargetable with Emblem. Keep banishing the Golden Lord. This card is like an FTK. If you hard summon it against Eldritch, it's like an FTK with Emblem because they can't Golden Lord send it if it can be targeted. And then if they try to Conquistador, it won't even be able to be destroyed because you can detach, but you can also just chain its effect to banish Golden Lord, and Conquistador will resolve without popping, so you don't even have to detach. And once both Golden Lords are banished, Eldritch is dead. Against Shaddolls, this is the bane of their existence. This is their worst nightmare. You keep banishing their fusions, they're never going to recruit any advantage. And when it's hard summoned with an emblem, it's just stupid, bro. Like, it's so stupid. You can put this up. When you play against Shaddolls, all you really need to do is focus on Brawn, Dragite, and Mork. Bronze so that Dragite so you can negate the activation of Shaddol Fusion, and then Bronze so you can chain to Schism and banish it, and Mork so that any fusion they stick won't actually stick. It'll get banished whenever you need to. So they just keep losing all their advantage, and what's going to happen is they're just going to start setting Shaddolls and flipping them. I can show you my Plunder Patrol versus Shaddol duel as well. And then we have 2 Lease. I want to play 3 of this. I kind of do. I only have 2, but I definitely have been considering playing 3. Because this card, it rotates so well off Blackbeard. You just have this draw loop. It's a really good resource loop. Because you also get to search any Plunder card off Lease. So you just get so much advantage when you start looping these cards. And then I'm playing double Brawn. So you have the 10 Plunders. Brawn is a beast. There are times, and this is the only card I can summon against Virtual World. I've made it work too. Where like they have to target Chuchi, I chain Brawn. They of course chain Chuchi pop, but I'm still like, I'm banishing. You're missing a target. And I still get to search a Plunder name, and I just like float into something and pray they get a dark, like pray they summon VFD. And then we have Bahamut Shark and Totally Awesome. You have Golden Hair plus an Extender, which is pretty much gonna be Golden Hair plus Bluebeard. You can basically just summon Shark, summon Toad, and then use Golden Hair's Graveyard effect and summon it back and make your Blackbeard, and that's Blackbeard plus Toad. But that same combo can also hard summon Mork, and I think a lot of the times hard summoning Mork is just way better. I know it sounds crazy because this does negate anything and set it and give you a Plunder from grave to hand, so it sounds so tempting, but I'm speaking from experience. Hard summon Mork wins you so many games. And then I actually put White Overwhelm back. The reason being is because I actually ran into a situation where I Nibiru'd my opponent. The token was way too big. I could not get over it at all. And I was like, dang, bro, I can't banish it. It's not an effect monster. There's no way I could get... It was like at like 12,000 attack or something. I was like, it don't matter how much I boost off Brawn and Shipyard. I'm not getting to those levels. And I didn't have access code or anything. So from now on, just moving forward, my hindsight play is to summon the Nibiru token in an attack position so that I can White Aura Well and nuke it. And this card's also super good going second against Dragon Link. Like, people don't negate Bluebeard. They just don't. You normal Whitebeard and special Bluebeard, they don't negate the effect to summon. They wait for you to make an extra deck monster so they can bounce it with Seal, but you make this, I just smack the whole Dragon Link board. Chain Link 1, White Aura Well, Chain Link 2, Whitebeard, Chain Link 3, Bluebeard to draw. And they just negate that because it's the only card they can negate. Unless they put up the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, that's the only time they could stop this play. They don't always do it though. Sometimes they just end on Savage, Seal, and Tiding. And then we have Dragite. This card is super busted. When you put in your Nibiru's, this card, it just has more utility. And then obviously our Salamangreat Almirage and honorary Plunder Patrol because of Golden Hair interactions. Yeah, you guys, that is my deck profile. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and learned from it. I think Plunders are just a beastly deck. They're so good. Definitely want to try them for yourself. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Lord Jesus Christ. Thy kingdom come, and thy will be done on earth just as it is in heaven. Please give us this day our daily bread, Lord Jesus, and please forgive us of our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, Father, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the glory, and the power forever. In the mighty name of Jesus I pray. Thank you, Father. Amen. All right, peace.